Our series today starts in a Japanese city where we see Ayumi coming out of her steel building to attend a concert. At that time, we see a big festival happening in the city with people gathered everywhere, looking very happy and enjoying themselves. Next, we go to the restaurant where we see the chef preparing the most delicious and finest dishes, serving them to the patrons. Then we catch the band entering the room, but one of them stumbles in the restaurant. Jack fondly remembers the days when the restaurant was filled with lots of people, and it overflowed with love and happiness. They say nila hi this Then we see a little girl playing in the park. She runs to her dad, extremely happy, and then we see Amy talking to her dad. She tells him she wants to go meet her grandma because there's something important she needs to talk about. That's when we see Amy sprinting towards the house, crying, saying she needs to see her grandma right away. After that, we see Jack changing the restaurant's sign from closed to open, ready for the customers to start coming in. At that point, we see Jack preparing the vegetables and fruits for the upcoming task. Then his friend Aaron comes up to him and starts a conversation, telling him that he's all set to serve the upcoming feast to Ziad. After that, we see Arthur monitoring customer feedback on the computer. His friends notice him getting emotional and ask one of them what happened. Aaron responds saying, the work coming up is going to be really tough, so we need to be very prepared for it. While they're chatting, a girl comes over with their orders. Next, we see them taking out what they ordered from her. However, we see Arthur lifting the box, and at that moment, he's really taken with it. Then along comes Michael and talks to her, asking, "What are you doing here?" She replies, telling him she brought the orders they asked for from the factory she works at. He responds to her, telling her to get out, but she fires back, saying that there's nothing special about this place. He doesn't reply to her. Instead, he takes the necklace from her grab. Just then, Karun comes in and tells her that he has the exact same necklace. Ava responds, telling him that it was a birthday gift from her grandmother. And then we see Ava's grandfather. He's in the hospital, so we see her sitting and reading the notes that he had written for her a long time ago when she was little. And then we see Eva sitting at the computer, monitoring the company's work. After that, she heads to the garden and picks oranges from the tree for the requested order. She then places them in the car's trunk and marks the destination she'll head to, and off she goes. Next, we see Jack making juice and going to serve it. He tells her that she should hit the awesome tunes, and she responds to Arthur saying that she exports fresh products to all the stores she deals with. But Arthur doesn't respond to her and leaves. Then we see Aaron greeting her, telling her that Aaron was really glad to have met her. Then we see Arthur flipping through the board with his hand, and a picture of Eva's grandfather in the hospital shows up. At that moment, Arthur is visibly upset, contemplating what to do and how he can help Eva. After that, we see Eva outside the restaurant, brooding. Talking to herself, she says that the restaurant is not good at all, not even the workers there. Then Arthur arrives, keeps looking at her, so she responds saying, "It's like you knew exactly what I was thinking without me having to say it." After that, we see Gecko driving the car on the road when he comes face to face with Eva, but Nora, who is sitting beside him, tells him to watch the car ahead, and shortly after we see that the car pulls over.
They pass each other without anything happening. Then Jake gets out of the car and talks to Nora, saying, what just happened? He's very surprised and taken aback. And he says, says what happened was really weird. At that time, we also see Eva getting out of the car, looking very surprised by what happened. It turns out what happened was like there was an invisible wall or something that kept the two cars from crashing into each other. Then Jake and Aaron come out, equally puzzled, and they're watching the screen before them that shows there really seems to be an invisible wall between the cars. Then Aaron can't believe what happened. He sprays something on his face that makes him believe what he saw. Just then, Michael comes over and tells them there's just half an hour left before the customers arrive. We then see various fresh and crisp fruits and vegetables. Shortly thereafter, we see Arthur greeting customers at the restaurant and taking them in. Arthur takes their invitation cards and then hands them the restaurant's menu. As they open the menu, they find that there is only one single item available in the restaurant. At that moment, they hand the menu back to Arthur and ask him for the dish that's listed. Then we see Arthur standing, cooking and preparing the meal for the customers. He then finishes it off with his magical touch that makes the dish look like a masterpiece and at the same time tastes great too. Afterwards, we see Arthur presenting the meal to the customers and we find that they are not impressed with the food in front of them. So Jake offers the meal to Nora for her to try it, but she refuses to even taste it. Then we see Jake as he reluctantly eats Arthur's cooking. And then suddenly he finds himself in a different place, so he goes back to talking with Nora and tells her that she has to try it because it reminds him of the wakba his grandmother used to make for him. And then we see Aaron flawlessly and effortlessly continuing the preparation of wakba. Fast forward 10 years and we find Jake and Nora sitting down enjoying the wakba with great delight. They're eating joyfully, delighted with the dish. Then Nora speaks up and says that she made the strawberry jam just like her grandfather taught her. Later we see Jake writing outside the book on a small piece of paper that he's going to save up the money for the project he wants to do next. Then he places the money inside the book. After that we see Aaron as he is writing He continues his cooking, skillfully making the traditional rice with onions and eggs dish. Then he serves it to Jake. At that point, we see Jake taking a bite and almost crying because of how beautifully tasty the dish is. Then we see Nora eating and it says, The food is amazing, and that's when we see Gecko and Nora enjoying their meal together, absolutely delighted with what they've been served. Then we watch as Gecko chats with his bandmates, handing out chocolates to each one of them, telling them that this chocolate is going to improve their body shape, and it also gives them the energy to last the rest of the day. Then we see each one of them starting to act out in strange, very amusing ways. After that, we see John at the factory, supervising the workers and their tasks, but when he sees Katerina doing her job well, he starts yelling at her, saying that the work must be done properly. Eva spoke to John, saying, "Do you know the place called Solplatz?" He replied to her, "Yes, that's the only place that always orders fresh fruits and vegetables from us every day." Then Eva entered her office, sat at the computer, and noticed a message sent from the restaurant they always deal with. But this time, they had ordered a very large quantity of fruits and vegetables, which surprised her a lot. She wondered about the unusually large order, thinking, what are they going to do with all these vegetables and fruits? She's wondering to herself what they're going to do with all these vegetables and fruits. And then we see Eva standing in front of the mirror, telling herself that ever since she wore that necklace, she hasn't had any more disturbing dreams. Ever since she started wearing the necklace, she had thought, she hasn't had any more disturbing dreams, so she takes it off and puts it away. Soon after, we see Eva, struggling with Arabic, approaching the transparent wall, unable to figure out how to get around it. She tries to bypass it until finally she walks a short distance away from it. But then what happens is, she passes out in the car and suddenly she finds herself seeing Michael in her dream, and after a short while we see a little girl reading in the garden, looking for her grandfather. At that moment, we see Jack and the others sitting around, talking and watching the little girl. Watching the little girl walk through that transparent wall, when we next see Isa waking up, she finds Jack and his friends around her, completely shocked. She asks them about this place, and one of them replies, "You're here in Sully's restaurant." Phew. Someone also asked her why she wasn't wearing her necklace. At that point, Isa was silent and didn't know how to respond to them. Shortly after, we see Jack bringing her a meal, and he starts chatting with her, saying, "You must be hungry from the ordeal you went through." Then Isa begins to eat the meal and really likes it, so she asks Jack, "Why did you make this meal? It's just say." He responds to her, saying he learned how to make this meal, then starts acting weirdly, but tells her to enjoy the meal and leaves her with his friends as they continue their conversation. And then we see Jack preparing the meal and placing it in the microwave. After that, he talks to Arthur and tells him what happened. Arthur replies, saying that he has an allergy to peanuts and that he's just talked about it. Jack's mom is freaking out about it and starts mocking him. That really irritates Arthur. He's deeply upset by what he said, and he just leaves it at that. And then we see Gina unloading the vegetables from the cart, so Eva talks to him and tells him to be careful as he lifts stuff. While they're talking, Michael comes up to them and Eva speaks to him, saying that their last encounter wasn't good at all. He responds to her by placing the necklace around her neck, telling her that she forgot it last time. Then he leaves and walks away. After that, we see a customer entering the restaurant talking on the phone. Clearly upset, she gets approached by Jana, who gestures towards the restaurant cart. She pulls it out of her bag and he greets her with a hard tap on the belly using the card. Right after, Jana offers her a glass of water and a rose, and another person comes by, hands her the menu and tells her to choose her meal for the day. She responds uninterested in the menu, instructing him to just pick out the best meal available. At that moment, we see Michael preparing the meal and says to her, He slices the meat, browns it over the fire, serves it on a plate, and also prepares different kinds of meals, offering them to Nazik. At that moment, we see her savoring the dishes. Then she recalls a memory from 20 years ago when she had a small child who was fussing. She tries to soothe him, but her mother comes in and asks her what happened. She replies that her son needs to go to the hospital. Then her mother speaks to her, telling her that Jack is very sick and that she has to take care of him. Nazik speaks to her and, seeing her very tired and sick, tells her that she needs to go to the hospital to get treated. Afterwards, we see her mother preparing food for her at home. Nazik responds to her mother, telling her that the food tastes really delicious. Then we see Nazik looking at her mother sitting in front of her at the table, and she begins to speak. Nazik is utterly shocked and says she wishes she could be with him right now. Her mother responds to her, "Oh, you don't have to be upset or cry again. She was very proud of you." And then, as she was speaking, she got a shocking call from the hospital telling her that her mother had passed away. At that point, we see Nazik completely shocked, talking to Jen, asking him, "Did you see an old lady here?" He replies, "You were eating alone." Then she starts crying hard, calling out for her mother, and walks away. As she walks away, Jen starts talking to his friends and sprays perfume on his face again. Arthur asks him what he's doing, and he replies that he's using perfume to protect his face from any allergies. Then we see Jen taking a hanger to eat his meal with, but Michael takes it from him, telling him, "This dish was meant for someone specific," and then Michael takes the plate and walks away. That's when Jen stands up, talks to his friends, and says they need to go hit someone. At that moment, Arthur tells them that he has that dish and brings out a plate with it, puts it in the microwave, and they all sit waiting for the dish to be ready. Indeed, they sit smacking on the dish, and while they're at it, Eva comes over and starts talking to them. Michaela tells them that she saw her grandfather's dream every time she worried the chain, so she asks why she keeps having this strange dream and what could be the cause. Also, why is he the only one who appears with them in the dream? At that moment, she says that she saw someone with her in that dream, and also tells them that the one with her in the dream was you, and then she's very distraught and speechless.